I'd like to call the work session to order for January 5, 2026. City Clerk, please read a roll call.
Let the record reflect that Councilmember Campbell is absent.
Okay, thank you. We have two items on the agenda tonight. I'd like to remind council that staff will be pausing over every so often to answer any questions that you may have. First item is to receive an update on the 2026 state and federal legislative agenda. Please introduce yourself for those that are listening in.
Thank you, Mayor. For the record, Edwin Hernandez, Chief Government Affairs Officer.
Anthony Councilman, I'm the Government Affairs Officer.
Go ahead.
And we can begin?
Yep.
Excellent. All right. Well, as I mentioned, Edwin Hernandez, Chief Government Affairs Officer, and with me is Anthony Castleman. We're really excited to present your 2026 state and federal legislative agenda for the city of Goodyear. So as you know, the 57th Legislature second regular session will begin in exactly 1 week from today on Monday, January 12th. Each year, the government relations team comes before you for approval of the agenda, which helps to define the city's legislative priorities and helps us to decide when, but also how to engage with legislators and stakeholders, not only at our state's capital, but also our nation's capital. Before we get into a debrief of last session and what to expect this year, we're going to provide an overview of how our team engages on behalf of the city. And in front of you, there is also a one-pager and more detailed two-pager, which are both documents intended to be used as leave-behinds in meetings that you have with community partners, but also with legislators and other elected officials as well. As you'll notice on the agenda, we have a portion for questions at the end. However, please feel free to interrupt us or jump in at any point during the presentation if you have any questions or any clarifying thoughts as well. So as an overview, the mission of government relations is to advance and protect the interests of Goodyear residents as represented by the mayor and city council. Each of you serves as tireless advocates for your communities in so many different ways, and shown here on this slide are just a few of the stakeholders, federal, regional, but also local stakeholders that we engage with and have mayor and council representation, as well as staff representation as well. These roles are crucial for us to ensure that Goodyear has a seat at the table during policy discussions, but also future planning and regional coordination. Our team works under your leadership with each of these entities to ensure Goodyear's priorities are represented, but also well executed. And we advocate for Goodyear's priorities at the state, federal, and regional level. So you'll start seeing less and less of Anthony and I around City Hall as we'll start to split more than half of our time at the state capitol, but also at meetings and convenings of MAG, League of Arizona Cities and Towns, and other regional entities as well. I serve in my capacity as the city's designated public lobbyist, and Anthony is an authorized public lobbyist. Essentially, these registrations allow us to legally input opinions and formal positions on proposed legislation, but also allow us to advocate on behalf of the city of Goodyear. With your support, I also manage specialized contract lobbyists at the federal and state level that allow us to push forward our mission and allow us to successfully complete it and amplify our reach as well. There's nothing more important in our roles in communication, and that's why we operate under the golden rule of no surprises and often will over-communicate as well, because at the end of the day, you might not always like the news that we have to share with you, but we prefer that you hear it from us. During the legislative session, we also provide regular communication to mayor and council via weekly updates, but we're also available and accessible to all of you for one-on-one meetings and are available to provide information or communicate in any other mode of communication that you prefer to receive your legislative news on. We constantly coordinate with other city intergovs and staff from the League of Arizona Cities and Towns to review the bills that are introduced, but also those that have an impact on local operations and local revenues. Our strong engagement ensures that Goodyear's concerns are represented amongst all of our peers, and before engaging, the Goodyear team always reviews every bill as it gets introduced and seeks the input of our department directors for more specific and in-depth technical analysis as well. We engage with lawmakers, staff, and our counterparts to convey Goodyear's position and we work towards compromise where there's a path forward. And when in those circumstances where a compromise solution just can't be reached, we oppose bills that are of detriment to our primary tenet of local control or otherwise just don't align with our legislative agenda. Through all these efforts, we constantly strategize with all of our stakeholders described and that we alluded to earlier. However, most importantly, we collaborate with our Goodyear team. That's mayor, council, city management, but also our department directors and other critical staff members and stakeholders of the city. We would not be as successful and on the government relations team as we are without the help of everyone working together so that we can reach our shared mission of a thriving city of Goodyear. So, looking back at last year, during the 165 days of the 2025 legislative session, 1,724 bills were introduced, and 439 of those were transmitted to the governor's office. Of those bills, Governor Hobbs signed 265, and she vetoed 174 bills, surpassing her prior record that she had set in 2024 during her first year. Government relations actively tracks bills that have direct or indirect impact on local operations. As you all are very familiar, one major legislative issue of last session concerned affordable housing and zoning reform. One of the most contentious bills found itself in Senate Bill 1229, which was the revived version of the Starter Home Act, that was a revived version of the Starter Home Act from 2024. Framed by homebuilders as the solution to the affordable housing crisis, in reality, that bill had no measures for affordability and would have deregulated the home building industry, allowing developers to build anything by right and bypassing design review. So given that one-sided approach, the government relations team and our partners, as well as the growing grassroots Republican opposition, helped to ensure that that bill was not successful. Our partners, as well as the league, came together to present a couple additional bills to help bring consensus, but also collaborate with the stakeholders that had introduced the Starter Home Act to bring a more realistic solution for housing affordability. However, those two measures were rejected by the legislature last year. The session also saw the introduction of a record-breaking approximately 130 water-related bills, as the executive, as well as the Department of Water Resources, continued to grapple with the groundwater model that was released and the possible impacts surrounding the ongoing Colorado River negotiations. Through our partnership with the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, as well as with our water services team, Goodyear strives to protect our existing resources while supporting thoughtful and balanced approaches to water management throughout the state of Arizona. One major milestone from this past session was the Ag to Urban bill, which essentially was designed to incentivize the retirement of agricultural land, allowing subdivisions to be built where groundwater limitations previously prevented those developments from happening. Last January, the residential rental tax ban went into effect, representing the loss of millions in revenue for municipalities, as all of you know. These are revenues that are used to essentially fund the essential resources and programs that the city of Goodyear residents need. So, despite that loss in revenues, legislation was introduced to make a similar move at food tax. However, thanks to the collective efforts of mayors and councils all around the state, including yourselves, along with our regional partners and our intergov colleagues, we were able to reach a compromise that will put that decision of freezing existing rates in the hands of voters during the 2026 November ballot, essentially allowing us to experience without automatically cutting services and compromising budgets further. Following the Attorney General's investigations into sober living home fraudulent billing practices that revealed rampant misconduct and abuse throughout the system that has impacted our most vulnerable populations, increased attention was given to the issue. The City of Goodyear is fortunate to have sober living home experts in Officer Scott Daniel, as well as Development Services Project Coordinator Ashley Troyer, who have been a help to us on the government relations team, but have also been a wealth of knowledge in ensuring that we are moving forward to address and close loopholes as well. Last session in a major win, surprise legislator Senator Frank Carroll championed and was able to pass the league's sober living home proposal in Senate Bill 1308, which essentially provided transparent licensure requirement standards and requires ADHS to engage with local jurisdictions to ensure compliance with all local ordinances prior to providing an approval of licensure. Next, I'll hand it over to Anthony to provide an update on Goodyear's legislative representation.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, for the record, my name is Anthony Castleman. I'm the Government Affairs Officer for the City of Goodyear. I want to thank you first for giving us the opportunity to present to you tonight. I'll be providing just a brief overview of our federal delegation along with our 2026 state legislature. At the federal level, Goodyear continues to have representation on both sides of the aisle in the House. Democratic Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in a special election this past September, representing Arizona's 7th Congressional District and taking the seat of her father, Raul Grijalva, who, as many of you know, passed away this past March. Republican Congressman Paul Gosar continues to serve as the other Goodyear representative in the House, representing Arizona's 9th Congressional District. On the Senate side, everything remains status quo, with Democratic Senators Ruben Gallego and Mark Kelly continuing to represent Arizona as its 2 senators. Moving over to the state level now, Republicans continue to hold the majority in both state chambers. Specifically, the Republicans hold a 33-27 majority in the House. This slide provides an overview of the legislative leadership in the House, with Goodyear's own Representative Steve Montenegro continuing to serve as Speaker and Representative Oscar de los Santos serving as the Minority Leader. Goodyear and the West Valley continue to be well represented in legislative leadership in both chambers, with Representative Michael Carbone serving as the Majority Leader and Representative Quanta Cruz serving as co-minority whip for the Democratic Party. On the Senate side, the Republicans hold a 17-13 majority led by Senate President Warren Peterson. The Senate Minority Leader is Priya Sundaresan, and again, the West Valley is well represented in leadership, with Surprise Representative Frank Carroll serving as the Majority Whip. Following the 2021 redistricting, Goodyear is made up of 4 legislative districts, including legislative districts 22, 23, 25, and 29. With each district being represented by 2 House members and 1 Senate member, a total of 12 legislators currently represent Goodyear at the Capitol. And that representation is very diverse, both politically and geographically. Over the next few slides, we'll go into further discussion of each district and its political representation. First up, we'll start with LD 22. It's a Democratic stronghold primarily made up of Avondale, but it does touch portions of Goodyear's Estrella Mountain Regional Park. The district continues to be represented by Senator Eva Diaz, as well as Representatives Lupe Contreras and Elda Luna Najera, all of whom are Democrats. LD 23 is what we consider our swing district, and will continue to have split party representation at the legislature, represented by Democrats Senator Brian Fernandez and Representative Mariana Sandoval, along with Republican Representative Michelle Pena. The district encompasses Goodyear south of the I-10 and goes all the way down into Buckeye, Yuma, and even parts of Tucson. North of the I-10 and west of the 303, we have Republican-held LD 25, where Senator Tim Dunn serves in the Senate seat. And on the House side, Representative Michael Carbone continues to serve, as we alluded to earlier, as the Majority Leader and is joined by Representative Nicholas Cupper. Last but not least, we have the Republican-controlled LD 29, located north of the I-10, which is represented by Senator Janae Shamp, as well as Speaker Montenegro and Representative James Taylor.
Thank you, Anthony. As mentioned, each year prior to the beginning of the legislative session, we come before Mayor and Council to seek approval on what will be our guiding legislative principles for the year ahead. These principles are centered around the priorities, the vision, but also the mission of Mayor and City Council, and assist our government relations team in all of our collective efforts at the state capitol. Although not listed in priority order, you can see that each tenet is of utmost importance to the city of Goodyear. All 7 of these guiding principles are further defined by attachment B before you. That's the full page document. And they are all at the forefront of what we strive to do every single day. So as we review the 2026 themes going into the legislative session ahead, you'll note that many of the top issues from the first leg of this legislature will continue to be at the forefront of legislators' minds. The Goodyear team has been busy at work in the interim over the past couple of months, connecting with both familiar and new faces, but also strengthening key relationships, building coalitions, and coordinating with other cities to develop strategies to address 2026's top issues. As we've mentioned, we will continue to monitor and engage in discussions that seek to preempt our ability to utilize revenue tools and plan for growth in a way that is aligned with Goodyear's needs, but also is aligned with our strategic plan. We'll be working with our legislators, the governor's office, and the league to highlight Goodyear's impact and the potential consequences of continuing to chip away at local revenues. Speaking of revenues, a key issue this session will be in conforming to the requirements of the One Big Beautiful Bill, or H.R. 1. If the state is currently estimating a general fund impact of about $438 million, which, should those changes be adopted in their totality, will also signify some impact on state shared revenues as well. Considering the precarious state budget situation that we're entering into, as well as the food tax compromise that we mentioned from last year, the government relations team will continue to monitor and work with our stakeholders to oppose further legislation that seeks to preempt Goodyear's economic tools or our ability to continue to plan for growth in a way that is aligned with Goodyear's needs. As for housing and zoning, while it's unlikely that the Affordable Housing Act will be presented again in the same way that it was these past two sessions, it's likely that that additional legislation that is more narrow in focus will be presented this year. Already, we are tracking bills and proposals such as YIGBY, or Yes in God's Backyard, which seeks to add housing review to a list of religious exemptions. And we're also tracking other efforts that would seek to eliminate aspects of design review as well. We're also expecting this year to see increased attention on short-term rentals, and we'll continue to work with stakeholders to ensure that sober living and group homes operate in a manner that promotes the dignity as well as the safety of our most vulnerable populations, upholds the City of Goodyear's high quality of life, and provides the tools that law enforcement need to do their jobs. Water is another recurring theme this year, with recent deadlines for a basin state consensus agreement having passed without resolution. We're expecting and have already started to see several water-related bills being pre-filed and that will be introduced this session. So with that, and with the Colorado River negotiations ongoing, we are planning, or we are tracking, I should say, possible plans that will seek to address different negotiation scenarios as well. The government relations team will continue to collaborate with AMWA and support proposals that are in line with Arizona's legacy of water stewardship and the principles of the Groundwater Management Act. Fueled by the final theme that we're tracking, final major theme that we're tracking for the 2026 session is in data center infrastructure as well as large load users. Fueled by increased attention at the federal as well as the local level in Arizona, as well as President Trump's July executive order regarding the acceleration of federal permitting of data centers infrastructure, we expect state legislators to introduce proposals that are relating to the development of those as well as other large load users. We'll continue to coordinate with our partners and engage lawmakers to ensure that our design and review needs are reflected in discussions at the state capitol.
All right, as you all know, there's no voice more powerful at the state legislature than that of our residents. Over the last 5 years, the government relations team has worked with your support to increase that engagement. Edwin and I look forward to continuing to build upon those efforts. Every year, the city hosts Lead Day at the Capitol to allow graduates of our Leadership Academy the opportunity to learn more about the legislative process, hear directly from their legislators, and learn more about how the city interacts and engages at that level. Previously, the team established quarterly legislative updates to subscribed residents and community leaders. We plan on sending these out with more regularity to increase engagement. In fact, we just sent our first resident newsletter last week, which you all should have received. In our first newsletter, we introduced ourselves to the community, provided a refresher on government relations and what it is, and gave residents a glimpse of what to expect this next session. We also will continue to send action alerts on an as-needed basis to call for resident engagement directly with legislators or the governor's office on bills of interest. Furthermore, we want to continue efforts to invite our legislators into the community, ensuring that they're always aware of the exciting things happening here in the city of Goodyear, and continue relationship building and collaboration with you all and your shared constituencies. We also hope to participate in opportunities to share our excitement for civic engagement with community members, helping to complement your efforts to make government more accessible.
So that is the end of our presentation. With that said, the formal resolution will be included for your consideration and adoption during the January 26th council meeting. So, but please don't hesitate to let us know if you have any other thoughts, requests, or ideas that you'd like to discuss. And with that, Mayor and Council, if you have any questions.
Start it off here with Vicki, go ahead.
First of all, I think you guys are great. And I love the fact that you're doing this together. I told you that when we met one-on-one. I think you guys are absolutely great, and I loved hearing everything you had to say. You got right to the point. You said how it was. If we have any questions, great. I just think you're great. Great, great, great. I also want to say thank you very much for something that is close to my heart, and that's the sober living homes. And I want to hear more about that. I want to keep on top of that. And thank you for mentioning Scott Daniels and Ashley Troyer, because they have done a lot of work on that for the last couple of years, I think. And I absolutely adore both of them. And this was a big thing for them. They had their heart and soul in this. They still have their heart and soul in it. So I want to hear how that comes to fruition and what we find out about that. And if there's any more stuff that, you know, that we need to be aware of there, because we are trying to keep on top of it in this city. Thank you for mentioning them, because they're both great also.
Anything else? Go ahead.
Well, Goodyear has had a long line of very professional and successful intergovs, and so you're joining in a very esteemed cohort, I guess you would say. So we're looking forward to seeing what you're able to do and the relationships you make and the victories you make. It's interesting as you talk about large energy users, because that certainly is a relevant topic, the data centers, the AI and all of that. We've talked a little bit about other emerging energy things, the alternative energy. We had toured the Palo Verde nuclear plant, learned a lot about how energy in Arizona is done. And in fact, that includes a lot of, it includes solar, but it includes battery storage. And I see that a number of cities are doing like authorizing battery production and things like that. And it doesn't seem like we're super clear on guidelines for all that. I mean, like in terms of, I don't know if there's any regulations and things like that. So there's a lot to keep your eye on, not only what you're working on now, but things that are coming at us that cities are typically slow to respond to till it lands in our yard. So anyway, keep your eye out for the future as well. But it's going to be a good year.
Anything else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm excited that you guys are here now, taking up the mantle for us and helping us out. So I appreciate all your insight and being proactive, like we talked about. So being proactive and not being reactive, I think, on some of the things that we've seen in the past. So it's important to have those relationships, inviting them into the community. I think is good. Building those relationships with each one of the legislators is good. So, and then talking about large energy users, this is just something on the side. I talked to a friend who's in the energy industry, and I guess they're looking at geothermal in Arizona, and Goodyear is they said the West Valley and Goodyear might be a good contender for that, specifically geologically speaking. So if that's something side note, something like that, it's a little better than solar, for example. So just a thought. But yeah, just being proactive, getting out there and seeing things before they come, and then being just on it as opposed to react. I think we've been reactive in the past. So thank you. Looking forward to it. So yeah, thanks for looking out for us.
Trey?
Thank you. As has been said, welcome. Appreciate the responsiveness so far. I know you guys came and hit the ground running. It's so much going on. They mentioned large energy users, but I know the water agreement for the Colorado River ends in its current form this year due to expire. So I know that's top of priority, not only for us, but so many cities. But from our last meeting, I know Goodyear's in a better spot than most, should that agreement just go away completely, but no one wants to see that. So I know that's more of a federal thing, so don't get too much tunnel vision down at the state capitol, because those federal negotiations are going to be just as important. Other than that, appreciate what you're doing, keep fighting for us, and appreciate all the updates.
The only thing I would like to close it up on is that, number one, that lining the federal and the state up with that big, beautiful bill. You mentioned 400 million. Let us know when you have any idea on the impact that'll be on the local level. Because if they do that, I'm not sure where the state's gonna get its money. They may look to us to balance that would be, our state share revenue. So please look at that, and if you would, give us regular updates on any preemption bills that are out there, and keep building those relationships out there to try to explain the importance of the current environment. The big buzzword out there is affordability, and we want to make sure that we don't hurt our residents to that extent, as we provide services to them. So please keep us in the loop on that. But my biggest concern is where they're going to come up with that 400 million. Because I think one side's going to try to align it, and the problem is how they're going to balance their budget. So just if you would keep us in the loop on that, would be greatly appreciated. So with that, again, welcome aboard. I saw you've already done a lot of work in bringing us up to speed, and I appreciate your efforts out there. And, like everybody's mentioned here, you've got a lot of different ways that energy is going to come on board. You might going to see some things in there as far as battery storage. You might see some things in there, as far as design guidelines that'll hit us as well. Like Trey mentioned, water, we're in pretty good shape, but you never know what's going to come down the road with California. We haven't negotiated anything with them yet, and we're still trying to work out some deals with them with the Colorado River. So keep up the work and just keep us in the loop. And I know you're going to be pretty busy down there, but I thank you for all your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, switch on over to number 2. Next item is to receive an update on the staffing and succession plan. Please introduce yourself to the public that happens to be looking on board.
Right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, I am Rachel Garcia, Deputy City Manager, and I am pleased to introduce our HR Director, Lyman Lockett, this evening. Before I turn it over to Lyman, though, I'd like to provide some brief context and acknowledgement on what will be presented this evening. Lyman will be presenting tonight on our staffing and succession planning, which is directly aligned with the Council-adopted citywide strategic plan. Specifically the action items related to staffing and succession planning, including evaluating a 3 to 5 year workforce assessment and applying industry best practices. We want to thank our executive leadership team, including all of our directors and our police chief and fire chief here tonight, for their collaboration across all of our 16 departments on this strategic effort. The goal here is smart growth. As Goodyear grows, we want to make sure that we have thoughtful staffing and succession planning in the works to support smart and responsible growth in order to continue to provide quality services to all of our residents and visitors. Tonight marks the first of 3 planned work sessions on these strategic initiatives. This evening's discussion will focus on the proposed framework, the guiding principles, and the overall timeline for these initiatives. Staff will return later this spring and again next year with recommendations for Council's consideration. Council's feedback throughout this process will help inform future budget discussions, beginning with fiscal year 2027. Tonight's discussion does not commit Council to any future funding decisions, as that will happen through the budget process. This evening, staff is seeking Council's endorsement of the proposed framework and guiding principles so that we may proceed with implementation and continue developing recommendations for your future consideration. And with that, I will turn it over to Lyman. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Lyman Lockett, Human Resources Director. Tonight, as Rachel mentioned, I'm here to provide an update on these 2 strategic items. First, we have in the FY26 strategic plan, an action item for the 3 to 5 year staffing plan. And the action item is to evaluate 3 to 5 year staffing needs in all departments. Secondly, we have an FY27 succession plan. And the action item is to develop and implement best practice-based planning. We are presenting these two items to council together because they closely connect and mutually reinforce one another. Our intent is to provide council with a clear picture of our comprehensive approach to both the 3 to 5 year staffing plan and the succession plan. Both are key components of the strategic plan. By aligning these efforts, we are establishing a strong foundation for ongoing updates to both plans on a 3 to 5 year cycle in the same way we update the strategic plan on an annual basis. First, we have our 3 to 5 year staffing plan and the objectives associated with this. The objectives include looking at employee growth and declines across all departments, looking at our unemployment, let me back up there, looking at unemployment and underemployment rates, wage and compensation trends, skills demands and gaps, identifying these emerging skills, demographic shifts, educational and credential pipelines, technology and automation impacts to staffing, and turnover and retention patterns. We're also looking at supply and demand and service delivery requirements, changes in customer demands and community demands, maintaining service quality standards, workforce capacity and productivity, risk management and continuity, performance management, and scalability and future growth. As we assess the needs, we're also taking the opportunity to identify critical roles for succession planning and essential roles for emergency planning. And lastly, we'll use this information to inform our space planning needs and technology and other tools that are needed to continue to support organizational growth. Looking at the deliverables, there are a few deliverables associated with this. First will be department level staffing plans for each of the departments, an organizational roll-up staffing plan. These will cover FY28 through FY32, and these are living, breathing documents that will be updated based on conditions changing. From a succession planning perspective, the objectives associated with this are identifying critical roles. That would be pinpointing positions essential to the organization's success and prioritizing them for succession planning. Developing future leaders, and that's investing training, mentoring, and career pathways to prepare employees for future advancement. Retention components, strengthening engagement through recognition, growth opportunities, competitive compensation, and continually nurturing our strong organizational culture. Ensuring service delivery continuity, safeguarding operations by preparing successors to step into key roles. And lastly, promoting organizational stability. We're building resilience by aligning strategic planning with long-term strategic goals. Deliverables associated with this, develop department action plans, organization-wide succession plan, and a compensation study. This strategy will keep us in compliance with the city's policies regarding the maintenance and administration of the compensation plan. We'll also ensure equitability, competitive pay structures, clarify role expectations and progression paths, align future talent with organizational strategy, and lastly, develop a foundation that will allow the capability to conduct future studies in-house. Again, a living, breathing document that will be adjusted over time. There are synergies between these items. The workforce plan provides the big picture view of staffing needs over time. The succession plan ensures leadership and critical roles are filled seamlessly. And retention strategies are fundamental necessities to workforce planning and succession planning, retention of current staff is a critical component necessary to optimize both plans. Two key drivers of retention are culture journey, which continues to take shape as part of the strategic plan, and having sound framework for compensation and classification as a key element of succession planning. In combination, these components ensure resilient, engaged, and future-ready workforce. Speaking of the compensation study, there are several components associated with the compensation study. This is a study that will include review of all job descriptions across the city, external benchmarking, review and refinement of policies, engaging stakeholders, internal equity study, as well as updated compensation framework. The objectives include informing our workforce and succession planning, and that is providing insight that connects compensation structures to staffing strategies, leadership pipelines, and long-term workforce stability. A comprehensive market analysis with peer cities to ensure market competitiveness. Building a reliable foundation for conducting ongoing salary benchmarking and competitive pay reviews in-house through the implementation of pay scale and advanced compensation system. Ensuring the organization is equipped with accurate data-driven compensation structures to support upcoming meet and confer discussions with fire and police. Identifying and resolving any pay disparities and ensuring fairness, transparency, and alignment with organizational values. And lastly, position compensation and classification as a functional tool that supports career growth, engagement, and retention. Here's a look at the timeline. The 3 to 5 year staffing plan is already under works, starting with the two-tiered approach where our front-facing departments are engaged in the process of gathering their data. That data will be then moved to the second support departments to ensure that they have the data that they need to support our front-facing departments. This will be brought back to council in April through June of this year. As mentioned, for the compensation study, in June or July of 26, we'll begin the procurement process for a compensation consultant. This will be integrated into our work for the succession planning process. Succession planning process will be very comprehensive to include identifying critical positions that we'll focus on for our succession planning process, to include leadership development, knowledge transfer, and other strategies to ensure that we're ready for transition. Part of this included something that was in our FY26 plan, and that was the hiring of a compensation analyst. So that position is on board. Pay scale is being implemented as our advanced compensation system. The pay scale system will allow us to be able to do in-house compensation studies going forward after we build the foundation in. Again, this work will be taking place from September 2026 through February of 27, and we'll be bringing that back to council March, April of 27. That ends my presentation, and I'm available, along with Rachel, for any questions you may have.
Start on this side. Anybody on this side? Go ahead, Benita. Yep.
Can you just go over again, what's your primary goal for your class and comp study?
Primary goal is to position us to ensure that both our 3 to 5 year our 3 to 5 year staffing plan and our succession plan are being able to optimize. So I think the first step in each of those processes is to ensure that we are focused on retention. This is a retention component that's necessary. But along with that, to review all the job descriptions in that process to ensure that as we are going through the succession planning process, we're actually identifying the skills that are necessary for each of the positions across the city. So it'll support each of these components.
So when was the last class and comp study that you had?
2021.
Okay. So how will employees be involved in the class and comp study?
So we have a plan to involve all stakeholders. So employees will have an opportunity to give input on their jobs. There will be a process that those will be taken through to approve. So each part of the process is to ensure that we have a comprehensive look at each position throughout the city with input from employees that are actually in those roles.
Okay. And how will the union input be incorporated in the class and comp study?
So through our meet and confer process, each time we do a compensation study, we are meeting with the unions, collaborating on the data that's being brought to ensure that we're all aligned. So they'll have key insight into both the data, but also ensuring that their information aligns with the data that we have.
Okay. I guess my only concern in doing class and comp studies is when we look at peer groups, what will be our peer cities that we will be looking at?
We have 11 peer cities that we look at, all the West Valley cities, Glendale, Surprise, Avondale, Buckeye, Peoria, Glendale, in the East Valley, Tempe, Chandler, Mesa, Phoenix, who am I missing? Gilbert, Scottsdale. So we've got 11 peer groups that we've continually looked at over time. We'll continue to engage those, but we will also use a consultant to analyze the peer group cities to ensure that our peer group cities are the right cities that we should be looking at and comparing to.
So I guess my only concern is there's some things that Goodyear does bigger and better than other cities, and we need to, or we will be taking into account those job classifications and their salaries.
Absolutely. As we look at jobs that may be consolidated here and maybe specialized in other cities, those things will be taken into consideration as we work through job matching with the consultant.
And I'd like to add that sometimes we do have specialized jobs here that we like to keep and use, and that's where the internal equity piece of it comes in, because then we can go through a point factoring, which I'm really excited about, looking at our internal equity process and point factoring and reviewing that. And so you try and match externally, but you also have the internal equity component of it to use.
And this will include our courts.
Yes. Okay. All departments will be included.
All departments will be included. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you. Laura?
All of this is a huge undertaking, but it's really exciting, and this is all perfect for strategic plan items. And so really glad that you're going on to do it. As you were talking, I was thinking about a number of things that you've done proactively ahead of this, commending the city manager and the entire leadership team. Like when you implemented the deputy directors, that really was a big move forward with your leadership structure. And some departments needed more than one, but it made a lot of sense to do that. Your internal mentorship program, I've heard really good things. It's well received and appreciated. I think that's a great tool to use internally. I love the work that you're doing with the high school kids, bringing them in as interns. That's really innovative and a good thing. We've been doing so much hiring, we think everybody's new, but you have a number of positions that have been here a long time. Are you factoring in your retirement projections for retirement? Because you're probably going to lose a lot of talent in a similar range of time.
Absolutely. I think turnover is a key factor that we're looking at. So the transition of people moving into retirement, along with any other turnover that we would anticipate. Obviously, our goal is to curtail turnover. So I think our culture really speaks to the work that we're doing as well, to create an environment where people are engaged and so we're attacking it from a number of
But factoring in retirement, Mike, you might have a lot of fire retirements or PD retirement. I mean,
yes,
okay.
absolutely.
When people get hired together in big groups, they can retire in big groups as well. So the class and comp is definitely a big undertaking as well. And I was kind of surprised it wasn't that long ago, but then the world's changed quite a bit, so it makes sense to do that. Is one of your recommendations going to be a regular schedule of doing a study?
A regular schedule of doing a study, but also the ability to do it internally. So PACECO gives us a lot of capability to share data more readily with our benchmark cities.
Yes.
So it gives us the ability to do that in a way that is very cost effective and allows us to do it almost real time, not quite real time, but almost real time.
Well, you're right, because you have an internal analyst for that purpose, and that definitely can keep things aligned, and then periodically you get some of that other feedback and such. So you mentioned the new analyst and the role and systems, and I just wanted to check in on how are all your systems working? Are they starting to work together more?
We're continually working on our systems integration. So there's work that is ongoing to improve the system. It's one of the continuous improvement items that's high on our list. So getting a lot of attention. We're making progress in many areas. In some areas, we're just continuing to figure out where we need to go. But work is still underway.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing more about that. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you. They hit a lot of good stuff. They're the HR experts in this group, as far as I'm concerned. But, yeah. So I think it's really good. I like having you already have a plan for succession. So what that looks like, what the ramp to the next position would be, what skill sets they're going to need, identifying all those kind of things, I think is good, education wise as well. And that I had a quick curiosity question. Do we? I know we do tuition reimbursement. What's the highest level of degree? Do we go all the way to doctoral degree here?
Currently, our tuition assistance program covers up to master's degree. We don't go to doctorate.
Okay. We might want that. I don't know. I'm just curious just talking out loud. And then you're talking about retirement and planning for that as well. So it's like you have a plan. Are you identifying which organizations are getting closer, or which departments are getting maybe closer, or job functions are getting closer to that retirement? I know when APS, they won awards and things like that on how they were planning for that kind of wave coming in their organization. So just curious if we're looking into ways to mitigate or help that transition.
There are things that we're doing, one within the 3 to 5 year staffing plan to identify where we're going to have pockets or just retirements in general. So some are going to be pockets. Fire is a great example of where we know we're going to have pockets of retirement. And then what is our plan to address that? So our recruitment strategies, our filling strategies, as Councilmember Kano mentioned, our mentoring program, we're looking to expand our mentoring program. In our FY28 plan, which we're not talking about, we also have interns. So we're looking to structure our internship program and have a centralized program so that we can have more depth and more of an opportunity to address some of these hard-to-fill positions.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of touching on too, like just key positions. So ones that are higher skilled, maybe harder to fill. Are we looking at a plan for those? Like an engineer might be harder than another role, than an admin or something. So just trying to think out loud what that would look like, and make sure we're aware of any vulnerabilities that we have in the organization. That there's no redundancy. There's only one person. That person leaves. The only one that knows that job function, and what's the plan to backfill that person? So
and that is part of the process of identifying those roles. which ones are critical positions
Yeah.
that we really need to plan for, and come up with strategies. So those strategies might be internal fills, but it could be external.
Yeah.
So understanding what the job market looks like for those positions and what our recruitment strategies need to be. Where do we need to have things in place in anticipation of those openings? But that's what we're going through. Each department is going through this first element of it, which is the 3 to 5 year staffing plan, and understanding which roles are critical, which roles are also taken into consideration emergencies. Just coming out of the pandemic, knowing which roles are essential, which roles have to show up, and what's the impact to our service delivery of those things. So while we've got time to think about it coherently and we're not into the pandemic, we're also integrating those things into this 3 to 5 year staffing plan.
Yeah, and I like the internship programs, things like that. I mean, for high schoolers, but also for college age engineers, things like that as well. And then also apprenticeship programs for our more technically skilled tradespeople. Also, maybe not managing it, but working with the trades, the unions, things like that, or the organizations to help with that as well. So I think that'd be good too. Yeah, just those more higher skilled type positions, making sure that we're prepared, we have a pipeline that we're able to keep filling. And maybe we need to overhire slightly to make sure that we're prepared for when other people attrition starts happening. So all right, thank you.
Trey?
Thank you. Just a quick question, Lyman. Councilwoman Beckles brought up the peer cities, and you listed those. Are we looking wherever possible at private sector equivalents as well? Because my concern there would be, forgive me, I mean, government sometimes has the ability to overinflate costs, prices, or in some cases fall behind. I want to make sure that we're not just looking at a few cities that are much larger than us, some of them smaller than us, and not just cities, but a lot of times if we're talking about retention, what's out there in the private sector for folks? Are we looking at that? Is it better? Is it worse? To help modify. So that's the genesis of my question. Just are we looking at private sector equivalents wherever possible?
Absolutely. And I'll use IT as an example. So a network administrator is a network administrator, government, private sector. So that's a great example where private sector data comes into play. So we'll be pulling that in, one, using the consultant, but PayScale also gives us the ability to pull in private sector data where it's appropriate.
It's a great question. Thanks for the HR expert. You did great on there. The only thing I want to add is what your position is today, 5 years from now, may not be the same. I remember when I started out as an auditor, it was pencil, pen, and a calculator, right? Then eventually as I got in there, it was computer, automatic spreadsheets, all linked, all saved time, made you more efficient, more effective. Just want to make sure that you're looking at the IT, maybe some of the AI or some of the other things when you're looking at your 3 to 5 year staffing planning on what you may have at that point, as opposed to still doing things the same way over and over again and getting more efficient, more effective in what you're doing there. So just kind of keep that in mind because, like I say, as we're evolving and the technology is changing so fast right now with some of the tools that are out there, make sure you keep that on the forefront. So with that, again, thank you for that presentation. Great discussion, Council. And with that, next meeting is January 12th. No further business. Meeting's adjourned.